Good morning, cadets. Hope you are all doing well. Today, let us discuss about an important operation undertaken by the Indian Air Force. That is Operation Sagar. Operation Sagar was a code name assigned to the Indian Air Force strike to support the ground troops during Operation Vijay that was aimed to flush out the regular and irregular troops of Pakistani army from vacated Indian positions in the Kargil sector along with LOC, that is line of control. It is the first large scale use of air power in Jammu and Kashmir region since Indo-Pakistani War of 1971. What is the aim to teach this? To teach NCC cadets about how our country has protected our sovereignty, the use of military powers against infiltration using air power. Initial infiltrations were noticed in Kargil in early May 1999 because of the extreme weather in Kashmir, that is extreme winter weather in Kashmir. It was common practice for the Indian and Pakistani army to abandon the forward post and occupy them in the spring. That particular spring season in Pakistani army reoccupied the forward post before the scheduled time. Not only this but also which belonged to India in a bid to capture Kashmir. By the second week of May, an ambush of an Indian army patrol acting on the tip off by the local shepherd in the Batalic sector led to exposure of infiltration. Initially, with a little knowledge of the nature or extent of encroachment, the Indian troops, the reports of infiltration elsewhere along with line of control made it clear that the entire plan of attack was much bigger scale. India responded with Operation Vijay, a mobilization of 2 lakh Indian troops. However, because of the nature of the terrain, division and corps operation could not be mounted. The scale of most fighting was regimental or battalion level. In effect, the 2 divisions of Indian Army numbering 20,000 along with several thousands from paramilitary forces of India and the Air Force were deployed in the conflict zone. The Indian Army moved into region with a full force. Soon the intruders were found to be well entered, and while artillery attack had produced results in certain areas, more remote ones needed to help by the Indian Air Force. Air operations. The Indian Air Force was first approached to provide air support on 11 May with the use of helicopters. On 21st May, Canberra, a reconnaissance mission was hit by a ground fire. The flight was, however, recovered safely and returned to the base on engine. On 25th May, The Cabinet Committee of Security authorized the Indian Air Force to mount attack on infiltrators without crossing LOC. That's very important. Without crossing LOC, because if you cross LOC, it will be a full-fledged war. Initial indications from the government to the Indian Air Force to operate only attack helicopters. However, the Chief of Air Staff put forth argument that in order to create suitable environment for helicopters, the fighter actions was required. On 26th May, the go-ahead was given and Indian Air Force started its strike role. The flying from Indian airfields of Srinagar, Avantipur and Adhampur, the ground attack aircrafts of MiG-21, MiG-23, MiG-27, Jaguar and Mirage 2000 struck the insurgent positions. The strike were launched on 26th May when the Indian Air Force struck infiltrator positions with fighter aircrafts and helicopter gunships. The initial strike saw MiG-27 carrying out offensive sorties, with MiG-21 and MiG-29 providing fighter cover. Mi-17 gunship also deployed Tololing sector. Srinagar airport was at this time closed for civilian air traffic and dedicated to Indian Air Force. However, on 27th May, the first fatalities were suffered when MiG-21 and MiG-27 jets were shot down over Batalik sector by Pakistani army. The following day, MiG-17 was lost with the loss of 4 crew and when it was hit by 3 Stinger missile while the offensive sorties. Those losses forced Indian Air Force to reassess its strategy. The helicopters were immediately withdrawn from the offensive role as a measure against man-portable missile in possession of infiltrators. On May 30, the Indian Air Force called off its operation, the Mirage 2000, which was deemed the best aircraft capable of optimum performance under conditions of high altitude seen in the zone of conflict. Armed initially with 200 kg dump bombs and 7 squadron over 3 days struck infiltrator positions in Monthodalo, Tiger Hills and Point 4388 and at Dras sector. On June 17, also destroyed the logistic and resupply capabilities of the infiltrators in the Batalik sector. The last week of June, the Mirage, armed with LGBs as well as repeatedly struck heavily, defended the Tiger Hill. The choppers used were Mi-8, Mi-17, the transport planes of Avero AN-32, IL-76. On May 27, Indian Air Force had sent MiG-27 on the photo reconnaissance mission over the Indian side of the line of control in Pakistan. Pilot ejected from MiG-27 aircraft after engine flame out due to Pakistani retaliation. The next day, the Indian Air Force lost Mi-17 helicopter to the shoulder-fired missile near Tololing sector, killing the crew of 4. This resulted in the exchange of strategy and technology, with the Israeli providing ground 100 laser-guided bombs kits. The Indian military, the Air Force, chose to make maximum use of this, retaliated with the regular sorties on Pakistani-occupied bunkers. The aircraft operated at 1000-meter AGL, well out manpowers range, leading to drop in accuracy rate of bombs. The lower number of airstrikes for takeoff and landing of the flights also constrained the efficiency of the attack. Despite this, there were hundreds of sorties on the intruders with no further materials or personal casualties, enabling the gradual takeover of the mountain post by the Indian troops. According to the Indian Air Force, the airstrikes against Pakistani infiltrators, supply camps, and other targets yielded a rich dividend. By July, all remaining intruders had withdrawn and the operation was ended, being declared as a successful by Indian Air Force, having achieved its primary objectives. However, there has also been criticism on methods of initially used by types of planes being unsuitable for the terrain, resulted in early losses. This is believed by many in the Air Force as coming as a wake-up call to upgrade the aging fleet of craft, the attack aircraft and the helicopters, to better enable them to fight the mountain regions. But in the context of the war and in the light of poor information available on the infiltrators, the Indian Air Force was able to coordinate well with Army and provide air support to recapture of the most post of before Pakistani decided to withdraw its remaining troops. So what is the lesson learned from Operation Safed Sagar? Because upgradation of aircrafts, that's the reason why after that the government of India proceeded for procuring lot of aircrafts with the highly enabling missiles. Conclusion: Operation Safed Sagar, as the air operation in the Kargil area was called, was indeed a milestone in the history of military aviation. This is the first time that air power was employed in such an environment. Fighters as well as armed helicopters carried out many hundreds of sorties against the armed intruders who had infiltrated into Indian territory. The use of air power in the theatre was instrumental in accelerating the end conflict of India's advantage. Indian Air Force airstrikes against enemy supply camps and the other targets yielded rich dividend. Noteworthy the fact that there was no a single operation on the ground that was not preceded with by airstrike. Each and every action was the result of coordinated planning. The enemy was kept off the backs on the Indian Army in the area of interdiction. The enemy supplies the successful incent attacks on the army logistics machines over the weeks, culminated in a serious degradation of enemy's ability to sustain them. So this is about a very important operation led by Indian Air Force, that is Operation Safed Sagar. Thank you.